Hello, I'm Stephen Bourne, and for Pride Month this year I will be highlighting some of the great classic British films from the brilliant STUDIOCANAL catalogue, drawing on my book Brief Encounters, which was published way back in 1996, which was an excavation of lesbian and gay images in early British cinema. Now, when the fragrant Keith Howes contributed the foreword to the Brief Encounters book, he made the following statement. He said, "For too long, British cinema has been depicted as sexless, featureless and passionless, an old dark house. No surprise then that queer British cinema, with a few exceptions, always used the servants' entrance. Because of prejudice and misconceptions, this vast pink and lavender arena has mostly escaped the attentions of the orthodox critic and historian. Yet, in Brief Encounters, Stephen Bourne reveals a cinema more various, more vital and more sensuous than we could ever have imagined in our Oscar Wildest, most technicoloured dreams, and definitely iridescently queer." Let's start with one of Alfred Hitchcock's early classics, Murder, made before he went to Hollywood, made in Britain in 1930. Hitchcock was renowned in latter years for including perverse, unnatural lesbians and gays in some of his films, like Rebecca with Mrs. Danvers and Strangers on a Train with Bruno. However, Hitchcock's queer characters have often been criticised for being lamentable, perverse figures. In Murder, Esmer Percy plays Handel Fane, an effeminate transvestite trapeze artist who commits homicide. Handel Fane may embody some of the unnatural characteristics often associated with early film images of gay men, but it is important to recognise that Hitchcock was equally pessimistic about heterosexuality. During the Second World War, light-hearted escapist entertainment was provided for war-weary audiences, and the Ealing musical Fiddler's Three, released in 1944, though very silly, has some bright moments. The comedian Tommy Trinder plays a sailor who is transported back to ancient Rome, where he finds himself caught up in the rights and wrongs of Nero's court. Now, most memorable is Trinder in drag as Senorita Alvarez, clearly inspired by the Brazilian bombshell and Hollywood star Carmen Miranda. As the Senorita, Trinder entertains the bejeweled and delighted Nero. Moving on to 1945, I will mention the powerful and chilling ventriloquist dummy segment of the creepy Ealing film classic Dead of Night. Michael Redgrave stars as Maxwell Freer, an emotionally unstable ventriloquist who has an intense, violent relationship with Hugo Fitch, his dummy. They are the star attractions of Chez Beulah, a Parisian nightclub owned by the glamorous expatriate American. She is played by the gay favourite Elizabeth Welch, who made a memorable appearance as a goddess in Derek Jarman's The Tempest. If I may name drop, I knew Elizabeth very well, and she even told me some first-hand anecdotes about the ventriloquist dummy, saying that it was a woman that did the voiceover of the dummy, not a man. So that gives it a kind of strange dimension. In his tortured relationship with Hugo, Maxwell Freer expresses the emotions of an obsessive and jealous lover. In real life, Michael Redgrave was a troubled bisexual who gave his character some fascinating homoerotic dimensions. Well. Ealing's Kind Hearts and Coronets, released in 1949, was one of the first British comedies about murder. The effete Dennis Price stars as Louis Mazzini, a decadent killer, but in spite of being a comedy, the film is a dark, disturbing and hard-hitting critique of race and class. After the death of his English mother, Mazzini swears to take revenge on the members of her family who disowned her for marrying an Italian. In doing so, he hopes to inherit the title to a dukedom. Racism may have alienated Mazzini from his English relatives, but he has become an unpleasant snob with queer characteristics, such as permed hair and a quilted smoking jacket.
I might be a Duke one day.
Pigs might fly.
No, I might. Really, I might. You see, Mamma was the daughter of
Oh, yes, I know. Well, when you are a Duke, you just come and show me your crown or whatever it's called, and then I'll feel awfully silly, won't I?
Yes, you will.
Anyhow, I'm going to marry now. Now I'm going to bed.
You will?
One of my favourite Carry On films is the 1960 production Carry On, Constable, mainly because of Charles Hawtrey, who plays a very ladylike policeman who enters the police station with a bunch of flowers for his sergeant, and then later in the film he goes undercover in drag with his fellow police officer played by Kenneth Williams, the brilliant Kenneth Williams, and they make quite an odd couple, dragging up to go undercover in a department store and causing all sorts of mayhem in doing so. But they're both in their element, these two closeted gay men in real life, dragging up and swishing around the department store in ladies' clothes. It's just one of the funniest sequences I've ever seen in a British film.
Thank you.
Julie Christie's Oscar-winning role as the sexually liberated model in Darling, released in 1965, is complemented by Roland Curram's gay friend with whom she shares lots of fun away from the glare of publicity. It's a brief but frank and honest depiction of a gay man 2 years before the Sexual Offences Act partially decriminalised homosexuality. Darling was directed by John Schlesinger, who later came out as gay himself. The Family Way, released in 1966, is a landmark in British cinema for showing working-class life with warmth and humanity. It is also memorable for its sensitive depiction of a married man with an adult son who fondly remembers the closeness he felt for his male companion, who deserted him when he got married. As the older man, John Mills gives one of his finest film performances, deeply troubled by his friend's disappearance. He is matched by the brilliant Marjorie Rhodes as his supportive wife.
We were scrubbed off together in the same wash tub in his mum's backyard. Went to school together, worked together. It takes a lifetime for a man to make a proper friend. What was I to do? Desert him? Just because of a few words spoken over me at an altar?
A few words.
Well, and to him. Anyway, that's when I most needed him.
But you had your wife.
Her? All she did was to keep squeezing my mitten looking moon-faced at me. I began to think I'd married a woman with a slate short.
Happen you had. I suppose that's why you went off every morning at 7, the pair of you.
When I wrote Brief Encounters back in 1996, I, for myself, opened up a Pandora's box of delights, looking at British cinema in a queer way, and revisiting a lot of classic British films which are now available from STUDIOCANAL's catalogue. But it was a joy, an absolute joy to do, and I just hope that you will enjoy the films from the catalogue and revisit them as I did and make your own minds up. I'm sure you'll get as much pleasure from them as I did back in the 90s.